Trenčín, a village in what is now Slovakia, was the center of a rumor mill in the early 17th century. There was a mysterious disappearance of peasant girls who had applied for jobs as servants in Křečť Castle. The locals, however, quickly began to blame Countess Elizabeth Bathory. Bathory lived in Křečť Castle. He was the offspring of the powerful Hungarian Baron George Bathory and Baroness Anna Bathory. It was a wedding present from her husband, the celebrated Hungarian war hero Ferenc Nadasdy. When Nadasdy, by 1578 the chief commander of the Hungarian army, set out on a military campaign against the Ottoman Empire, he left his vast estates and the governance of the local populace to his wife. It seemed at first that things were going swimmingly under Bathory's leadership. Later, however, tales surfaced claiming that Bathory routinely tortured her staff. When Bathory's husband passed away in 1604, these sentiments spread like wildfire. Hundreds of women and girls who sought shelter in her castle would later accuse her of torturing and killing them. As a result of her horrific actions, Elizabeth Bathory is now known as the Blood Countess, and she is notoriously remembered as the murderer of as many as 650 women and girls in the Kingdom of Hungary. If the rumors are true, she would be the most murderous female serial killer in history. However, not everybody thinks she is guilty. In the year 1560, on the 7th of August, Elizabeth Bathory entered this world in the Hungarian town of Nyabata. A member of a noble family, Bathory was accustomed to a life of luxury from an early age. It has been suggested that she would use this authority to commit evil in the future. Bathory's crimes, according to eyewitnesses, occurred between 1590 and 1610, though the majority of the brutal killings occurred after the death of her husband in 1604. It is said that she first preyed upon poor young women and girls, luring them to the castle with the promise of servile employment. Supposedly, however, Bathory continued his evil ways. After allegedly expanding her target list to include daughters of the gentry who had been sent to Křečť for an education, she became a wanted criminal. She allegedly abducted local girls who never would have visited the castle voluntarily. The History Channel claims that until 1610, Bathory lived freely as a wealthy noblewoman under the radar. At that point, it wasn't just the deaths of servants that the authorities were worried about. They also heard reports that Bathory had killed multiple people of noble birth. So King Matthias I of Hungary dispatched his most senior representative, György Thurzó, to look into the allegations made against her. Some 300 witnesses testified for Thurzó, all of whom accused the Countess of horrifying acts. Elizabeth Bathory tortured young women and girls in unspeakable ways, according to contemporary accounts and tales told decades later. Legend has it that she sewed her victims' lips together, bit off chunks of flesh from their breasts and faces, poured ice water over their bodies and left them to freeze to death outside in the cold, poured honey over their bodies so that bugs could feast on their exposed skin, burned them with hot irons, and more. Witnesses claimed that Bathory's favorite method of torture was using scissors to mutilate her victims' bodies and faces. They say she used it to sever their limbs and organs. It wasn't uncommon for her to use scissors to sever the flesh between her victims' fingers. These gruesome murders, along with the supernatural myths that have grown up around them, have helped to cement Elizabeth Bathory's reputation as a terrifying historical figure. During Thurzó's investigation, she was accused of being a vampire by some and having sex with the devil by others. Elizabeth Bathory was known as the Blood Countess because of the infamous rumor that she bathed in the blood of her young victims to keep her youthful appearance. However, while this is undoubtedly the most remarkable tale, it is also highly improbable. Even after she had been dead for over a century, Sci-Fi says, this claim made its way into print. The mythologized aspects of Bathory's alleged crimes make one wonder how much of her bloody story was true versus how much was made up to bring a powerful and wealthy woman down. It was after hearing these accusations that Thurzó decided to press charges against Bathory for the deaths of 80 young women. Though one eyewitness claimed to have seen Bathory's personal book where she listed the names of her 650 victims. However, this diary appears to have been nothing more than urban legend. One of Bathory's alleged conspirators was a wet nurse for the Countess' children. She was found guilty of witchcraft and burned at the stake after the trial concluded. As a noblewoman, Bathory was exempt from the death penalty. According to History Today, she was imprisoned for 4 years at Szeged Castle before her death in 1614. During that time, she was reportedly locked in a room and kept completely isolated from the outside world. But it's possible that things weren't as cut and dried as they seemed with Bathory. Some modern Hungarian historians even speculate that it may have been motivated less by her alleged evil than by the power and greed of those around her. Actually, King Matthias I owed a pretty penny to Bathory's late husband, and then to her. Historians speculate that Matthias' reluctance to repay the debt was a motivating factor in his decision to falsely accuse the Countess of multiple crimes and deny her a fair trial. Also, some historians argue that the king called for the death penalty before Bathory's family could intervene, and that witnesses likely gave the incriminating, yet contradictory, testimonies under duress. It's possible politics played a role here, too, since the king could take her land if she was executed. Historians have speculated that the real story of Elizabeth Bathory might go something like this. The Countess owned strategically significant land that added to her family's already vast wealth. King's Court set out to discredit and destroy her because she was a smart, powerful woman who ruled without a man by her side, and because she came from a wealthy family that scared the king. In the best-case scenario, Bathory abused her servants but didn't reach the level of violence alleged against her. What could go wrong? She was a demon from hell who preyed on young women and drank their blood. Even if only one of them is true, both make for a great story.